Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici. Welcome, my friends. My name is Vincenzo, and welcome to my channel. And my channel is Fountain Pen Therapy. And man, what a week I had. Worked really hard, folks. Really, really hard. I mean, I should be retiring now. I should be preparing, taking out my golf clubs, washing them down, and start getting ready for another season. And here I am working too hard. I think I'm working too hard. But having said that, I'm having a lot of fun. Make some extra money, and these days with the market, what it's doing, it's pretty scary stuff, but we won't get into that. This is our hobby. This is the reason why we're here, is to take away all that stress and think about something else, and hopefully this 1 hour show that I have for you will serve that purpose. I've got lots of stuff to talk about. In terms of, I've added to the list not only pens, inks, and paper, but we got nibs. Nibs and nibs and nibs and nibs. And maybe that's the way to go these days, right? Spend less money on pens. We got plenty of those. But switch up the nibs. Why not? Any event. I've got a great show for you. Again, I've got some variety there. I got a lot of stuff to show you. So without any further ado, please stay tuned for Fountain Pen Therapy Weekly Recap for April the 13th, 2025. Okay, so we're back. So what's new in the market? Well, there's a couple of stuff. A couple of pens that I think are worthy of mention and that I think I'd like to point out, some of which I've already ordered. And there's one pen that's brand new on the Chinese market that I'm going to discuss with you. Now, we all, of course, know that there's the Wingsung Yunlai 930, that huge 149 imitation, except it's almost double the size, with that gorgeous number 9, if not number 10 nib. So we won't go into that. We've seen that already. We're going to discuss it later on in this recap as well. But that's brand new, and you can get fine, medium, and broad. You can get different colors, burgundy, black, different trimmings. So that's something to point out. But what else have we got? Well, let's go to my computer. First thing I want to mention is this pen I overlooked it. It's the Ongdian C2. I have the C1, which is kind of a hooded nib sort of a pen, and that hasn't been giving me great performance. Dries up on me. I hate that nib. But this one is kind of in a regular styled nib. It's supposed to have a soft nib. Now I'm seeing this expression more and more on the Ongdian side of things. I don't know if this is just to catch you to think that it's a brand new offering in terms of the nib. But, I've ordered it just because I'm missing it, and I ordered the stainless steel version. So when we get it, we'll take a look at it. What else have we got? Here's a novelty, folks. I wrote to ASVINE, and I said, when is your... I understand that ASVINE also sells Hongdian. So I contacted their store and I said, I understand out there's an Ongdian T1 titanium When is that coming out? And I got the response probably next week. And then I got, here's the link. And it's on Etsy. So here it is, and I ordered it. It's the Ongdian T1 Titanium. My friend Shanghai Dude was raving about this as being one of the novelties for 2025 originally on. So he had the scoop maybe months ago, back in January, I think, telling us that eventually it would get to our market. Well, there it is. I've ordered it. It suspiciously looks like an 1866, but made in titanium, right down to the way this pattern. So that's been ordered. It's in space somewhere, traveling to this country. As soon as I get it, we'll review it and we'll take a look at it. What else have I got for you? Stilo e Stile. A couple of novelties. I find that this site is way ahead of the American sites. It's an Italian pen online store, but it's got the scoop on everybody, let me tell you. Navalor Voyage, I think they had this even last week. For those of you who like these Navalor pens, not a great fan. I don't know why. Second thing is this TWSBI Precision. Now this pen, it's not a brand new offering. I think it's been out for a while, but it came in that kind of a gray, space gray version. Well, they've got one, looks like in a blue version. I don't believe that there's been one like this before. So those of you who like TWSBI, I may actually order this pen. It's not overly expensive, and I don't own a Precision. It's a piston filler. So we'll take a look at this. This may be on my buying list. Next is this Navalor Nautilus titanium pen. This I might go for. Again, a little hefty on the price. I never bothered to purchase the limited edition of the titanium. This one's a little bit different. And so I said to myself, maybe I might order this one. Do we have anything else? No, that's it from Stilo and Stile. Delta. I mentioned that Nino Marino is going to be sending me this pen. It's the Delta Reservoir with this brand new huge reservoir. There's a better picture. How come they don't have the other picture showing how big that? Here it is. So this is it. No, I got to go back. Here it is. See that big reservoir? Takes the place of the converter. Looking forward to it. Apparently it's on its way. When I get it, we shall review it. Take a look at Casa Stilografica, by the way. They have all kinds of pens here. Again, both Italian and from elsewhere. And that's another great site. And kind of gets pens even before some of the American online stores. What else have I got for you? Peyton Street. Peyton Street pens. A couple of interesting things here that I see this week. I don't know why this Schoen design pen is going for $900, but I got a feeling it's something to do with that incredible Monarch nib, okay? But I think it's just too expensive. This Tatcha could be of interest, I think. I own the exact pen, but it's in red. And it's got kind of the nib on this Tatcha pen is made by Sailor. So for $140, you get a very nice pen, very nice resin with an excellent 14-karat nib. You got a Parker Duofold for $250, a 1994 version. That may be of interest. And then there's these Oranga pens that come with these Schaefer nibs, which may be of interest as well. What else? We've got a Lamy All-Star that you can pick up with that calligraphy nib, which I understand. Oh no, it's the cursive nib, which I understand is no longer available, which may be of interest. And then you've got this Mayora Daedalo for $350, which I also would recommend. It's a beautiful pen from Mayora. There you have it. 14 karat, I believe, for $350. Take a look at that resin. Looks very nice. So that's something else I recommend. On Goldspot, what I found was, I don't know what's going on, but this week, let me just click over. They've got almost a bunch of Tom Studio. I've always been curious about all these pens and all these products that Tom Studio comes out with. I've not taken the dive yet with them, but I may sometime soon just to check them out. But as you'll, I mean, this is just a sprinkling of what they've got. They've got all their inks, they've got all their writing instruments. So that may be of interest, as they say. That's it for what I think is worthy of mention in terms of what's new in the market. So stay tuned for my next segment. We'll see what's new at the Fountain Pen Studios, Fountain Pen Therapy Studios. Be right back. Okay, so we're back, and what's new in the Fountain Pen Studios? Well, I'm going to change it up a little bit. Usually I start with my pen haul and move on to paper and then to the ink. We're going to look at paper first. We're going to take a look at the ink after, and then we're going to take a look at my pen haul, because by then I will be able to use my paper, newly acquired paper, and the newly acquired inks in some of that pen haul. How's that sound? Okay, so let's look at paper first. Well, let me just shift to my computer and show you what I got this week. One of the viewers suggested this to me, Hamlin College Ruled Notebook Journal. My only regret is I was convinced that I was ordering an A5 size because that's my preferred size. But as it turned out, I ended up ordering the 8.5 by 11, which is the bigger size. I'm not even sure that an A5 exists. But having said that, I thought I tried this paper. As you can see, it comes in different, it's kind of a spiral notebook. Comes in different colors. It's also perforated for a binder. The prices vary depending on the colors, between $20 and $21.44 is the highest. There you have it. So that's the notebook that I ordered and that I received. So let me just cut to the actual overhead camera to show you the notebook. So here's the notebook. It's 150 pages, 75 sheets. So I guess 75 back and forth, 8.5 by 11. It's designed in France, made in Spain, Hamlin brands. And this is what the notebook looks like inside. There's kind of you could use this to kind of store, I guess, some documents in it. And then this is the actual paper. Now, I remembered this brand because Penultimate Dave, I think, uses paper that has that branding, or at least that logo, but I could be wrong. And I was always intrigued about the paper that he uses in his writing samples. You can perforate the page, so you can remove it easily. It's a paper that feels very much coated, thick and coated. So it's not a thin, loose leaf. It's very, very thick. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this reacts with some of the inks that we've chosen and some of the writing. It did, for some reason, there were these pages that were kind of undone. Now, I don't know if this formed part of the 75, but I've found a notebook like this with these pages sticking out. So I'm not sure why. But you know what? I'm going to end up using this for the ink swatches. So no big deal there. That way I don't have to, deal with the cumbersome 8.5 by 11 notebook. By the way, it's a hardcover, very hard. There you have it. I would have preferred if it was 8.5 by, if it was an A5 size. But let's look at the paper. Maybe the paper is worthwhile. So that's the new notebook that one of my viewers recommended. So here you have it. It's added to my collection. We'll take a look at how it performs as soon as we do some swatching and ink swatching and some writing. Speaking of which, let's look at some inks and take a look at what inks did we choose for this week's ink swatching. Well, here they are. And I think you're going to be surprised by my choice. And actually, I was surprised that I even had to order these inks. But as it turned out, I didn't have these inks in my collection, to my great surprise. I may have had one bottle of this ink, of one of these inks, very little left, an old bottle. But to my great surprise, let me just show you the bottle. Here's the bottle. Yes, folks, good old Parker ink. I must have had this bottle for I don't know how many decades, because take a look at the price. It's $1.50. Now, I was trying to figure out whether or not this coating was a date, but it's not. It's a red ink, and when I opened it, of course, everything is crusted, and there's a little bit of liquid in there, but so that, to my great surprise, I realized I did not have any Parker inks other than this old bottle. And, you know, at $1.50, I'm sure it's many decades ago. I bought at some stationery store here in Montreal, Canada. So that's what I have for you folks today. I said to myself, I don't own the Parker Quink inks. Now, there's some confusion over permanent blue and whether any of these inks are permanent. I just couldn't figure it out for the life of me. But I ordered, you know, the standard black, the blue black, and the blue. Boring, you might say, but you know what? I want to see how these inks perform, because these are, you know, original. You know, people wrote with this ink many years ago, and only these inks, that and Waterman. So I think I owed it to my collection to have this ink. So there you have it. We're set up, take out the bottles, do some swatching, fill up some pens, and take care of some fountain pen therapy. Right back. Okay, let's take out the inks from its cardboard box. Isn't that convenient? It's the first time I see that. We always struggle with these boxes, but here you've got a little tab to help you along. Okay, so this is the blue black. This is the blue. I find that really convenient, this little flap. Wow. Here we go. Opens nicely. And this is the... Okay, this is the black. Okay, so let's put the boxes aside. Put the ink here. Get my water. And my towel. Have my folded nib for my swatching. Of course, we will be using Tomo River on one end and the newly acquired Hamlin paper on the other end. Okay, so let's get down to business. So let's start with the black. Nice bottles. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay, that just came undone. Let me just try to get that out. Okay. Okay, here we go. Long time I haven't used black. It's not one of my favorite colors. Ah, nice solid black. Let me just be right back, because I noticed I spilled some water on this paper. So, okay, so we're back. And we'll do some swatching here. Oh yeah, this paper is really coated. I mean, you can see how it came down. Almost slippery. It's almost like putting ink on plastic. So we know we're going to get a coated paper, and we'll see how that works out. My apologies, we're back. Okay, so for black, I've inked up this old Marte Modena pen. Marte Modena was a brand that Delta used or gave the license to manufacture and put out some pens that had some Delta features, restricting them to certain markets, etc. Don't know the full story, but from what I understand from a good source, that relationship was a total disaster. But having said that, I have a few of their pens, and I've been enjoying them for many, many, many years. So having said that, this is the Parker. I guess we should put Quink. Black. Nice solid black. I mean, the ink does feel like it has a good flow. And behaves fairly well. Let's see how things go with this paper, the Hamlin paper. So this is Parker. You can see how slippery it is. Quink black. Actually, a very good sensation in the writing experience, I can tell you that much. I would say to you similar to Clairefontaine and maybe even Rhodia, just a tiny less slippery than Clairefontaine. But look at here. The ink didn't even penetrate that blue line. So that's a weird sort of a swatch there. Having said that, so that's black. So like I said, let's get to dark blue. Let's see what the dark blue swatch gives us. Wow. Just slips. It's like putting ink on a mirror. Okay, let me close that up before I spill things. The dark blue I put in this Rosetta pen. Forget the make of this pen, but again, I've got a big stub in there, so it should test the ink pretty well. So this is Parker Quick or Quink blue black. Yeah, very nice ink. You know, it goes to show you sometimes the obvious escapes us. You know, you have all kinds of inks that cost a fortune, and your basic Parker ink does not form part of your collection. I was very, very surprised myself, frankly. I don't know how we got to it. I think I was just surfing on Amazon, and I saw this ink, the Parker ink, and I said, hey, you know what? I don't think I have any Parker inks except that old bottle. I got to tell you, I like this Hamlin paper. Very, 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 wow, nice writing experience. Okay, so that's the blue-black. Next on the horizon, just shut that, is just plain blue. I see. This appears to be more like a royal blue. Let me close this bottle before I cause a mess. And for the... Okay, so for this, just plain blue, here's one of the Marte Modena, another Marte Modena pen that I was talking about that has kind of a delta look to it. You know, it kind of has the Dolce Vita style with the big center band, which is not, you know, three-dimensional. It's more of a just an etching there on a gold band. And, of course, you don't have the Delta logo at the top. But, you know, the ring clip, and it does remind one of a Delta pen, but it's a Marte Modena. I've got a stipula stub on this, some of the best stubs in my collection, I would say to you. So this is the Parker Quink, just plain blue. Just kind of got this glossy, even on this Tomo River, a glossy feel to this ink. I don't know how to describe it, but a very nice. I'm just pleasantly surprised. I thought that maybe it was the paper, but I'm getting kind of the same writing experience with this ink on the Tomo River. So this is Parker Quink. Just plain blue. Sorry about the blotch there. Yeah, very well behaved ink, I would say to you. This one, this blue appears to be a little bit drier in terms of flow, but still very nice nonetheless. So there you have the ink swatches, different blues. These two blues are surprising me so far, and I really like them. So let's get it to dry a bit, and then we'll come back and take a closer look. Okay, this is as patient as I will be. So let's take a look at this Hamlin paper, which I'm just disappointed that they don't come in a different. But I'm going to look. I prefer, you know, if I have a notepad like this or a journal A5, I'm going to keep looking, and I'll stay tuned for that. I might put it in my description if I find it. But as you could see, the ink performed really well, except it couldn't penetrate that blue line on the notebook, which is the first time I see that. It's got a little bit of shading there. But the ink performs very well. There's no feathering on the paper of any sort. Kind of a slippery, nice flow. I like this blue-black. Now, it is on the camera, at least as I'm looking at it now. Maybe when we finish the video, it'll come out a little more blue-black. It appears on the camera to be a lighter blue, but it isn't. There is a kind of a blue-black shade to it. In fact, the writing is more indicative of the color. For some reason, the camera kind of shows it like a bright, almost turquoise, but it's not. It's got some red sheen in it, which is really, really nice. I wasn't expecting that from this Parker ink, frankly. Same thing goes with that blue, which is more of a royal blue. It's got some very nice shading, a little bit of shading, a little bit of sheening, and the ink goes down much lighter than, of course, than the blue-black. Again, performs very well on this paper. I don't see any issues with the writing in the back. Yes, the swatch is kind of penetrated, if you will, but in terms of feathering and ghosting with the writing itself, with those big 1.5 stubs, not an issue at all. So that's good news. Let's see what this Tomo River gives. Very similar. I think you can see the sheening a little more on the Tomo River, which is to be expected, frankly. I like that black. It almost gives you a purplish, brownish sheen. Comes out really nice. Colors are very similar in terms of the overall use, except of course you get a little more sheening on the Tomah River. Performs very well. Actually, even on this Tomah River, the flow was very, very pleasant. As you can see, there's always on the swatch a little bit of penetration there, but fairly normal kind of a ghosting. A little more than usual here on this stub, but that's a 1.5 stub. With this blue-black, I can see it just a little more on the Tomah River. But again, some very, very nice inks that I was not expecting. And you know what? They're going to be kind of a staple ink for me. You just want to ink a pen, make sure it performs well, and not have any major issues. I think you can't go wrong with Parker. So there you have it. That's the ink swatching for this week. And we'll be right back. Okay, so for this next segment, we're going to do the pen haul. But we have pens, we buy paper, we buy ink, and every week we kind of trying to change things up and show you what we acquired or what we're looking at. And these days I've been trying to focus on nibs. It's one way of kind of changing up your writing experience without incurring hundreds and hundreds of dollars buying pens all the time. Sometimes what we should be looking at is the writing experience, which comes from the nib, essentially. And, we have in our collection probably some very nice bodies in terms of pens. You can think of all these beautiful Leonardo pens that essentially have the same nib. So I think one of the things that we should be looking at is, well, can we change those nibs? Switch those nibs and get a different sense. And it's almost like buying a new pen and having a brand new writing experience. So I don't know if you noticed, but last week we bought some, or the week before we bought some flex nibs. I purchased that Kaweco Flex at FP Nibs. I also purchased a number 5, I believe it was a number 5 Schmidt flex nib. And you'll see that this week I've purchased more nibs. So it's not only a pen haul, but it's also a nib, brand new nib haul. And I'll show you, I'll put them in some of the pens, and we'll see what kind of novelty we can get from nibs, if you will. So, okay, let's start with the pens. First of all, as you know, I had hoped to have received, let me just go to my overhead camera right away, these beautiful 930s, Winsung Yunlai 930s, before the end of my recap last week. I published a recap on Sunday, and at 9 o'clock as usual, and I think 10:30 they were at my door. So it was a little bit too late to include them. So I'm going to include them this week. So they do form my pen haul for this week, if you will. And I purchased 2 of them, one with a silver trimming or a chrome trimming, the other one with a gold trimming. The gold has that beautiful broad nib, and the chrome trimming as a medium nib. A couple of things to mention. First of all, I just noticed that every time I would use this pen, I kind of inked my fingers. And I was wondering whether or not there was a leak somewhere, or if it's just... and one of the viewers told me that if you look at Doodlebud's, is it Doodlebud? I don't know if somebody will review these. I think it's Doodlebud. Mentioned that there are 2 O-rings when you remove that nib. Now, they're both ink, so I can't do it, but I checked it. And there are 2 O-rings, and if you're missing one of the O-rings, it may cause a leaking. So that's something you can look for if you do have a leak. I think the reason why I ink my fingers is that because there's no flare here, and my fingers have a tendency to descend, it just kind of grabs on here, and that's when I get ink on my fingers. And that's one of the things I mentioned about this pen in my review. By the way, here's the thumbnail for my video review of these pens. Please take a look at that video if you have not. But this week, I can tell you that these Winsungs just perform beautifully. and this is the medium. Now, I'm still questioning the comfort level of these pens given their size. I'm not, perfectly comfortable with just the huge nib section, and also that huge nib. So I think that the best experience when writing with these pens is if I hold my pen way up for some reason. And it's kind of contradictory because some people say, yeah, well, because you got such a long distance because of this nib from the tip to your fingers, you feel like something's wrong or something's different. Perhaps, but why is it that my fingers have a tendency to go up? And if I go too down, I don't like it. So I kind of keep everything even higher up when I write with this pen. So I simply can't figure it out in terms of the dynamics of the whole experience. But I just got to tell you, they are so much fun. They're good quality. They've got a good girth. They've got good feel, nice weight. Despite all the criticism that I gave these pens because of their size, I think they're just so much fun that they are worthwhile getting for your writing pleasure. And this broad nib is like something I have never felt before, as they say. Very, very nice. Here again, I have a tendency to want the fingers to go more up. And by the way, no drying issues at all with this. I remember I was very excited to receive the ASVINE C2000, only to learn that the pens were drying up on us just with, in a few hours almost. So no issues all week. They've been laying on my desk, frankly. I did come down a couple of nights to just check the way they were doing, but they were not part of my daily currently inked. And you know what? They're writing beautifully both. Another thing I wanted to mention is that you can order the nibs separately, so keep that in mind. Just checking my notes. So if for example, I've now ordered my fine nib just to see how that fine nib writes, so I could just swap the nibs without buying another pen. If I really get used to them, I might buy a third, maybe in that burgundy color, just to complete the nibs, if you will. But so far, no. I think I'm happy with these two. They also sell the wrench for the piston filler mechanism. I don't think it's fair that we should pay for that wrench. It's now going for about $10, $11, $12 Canadian. But having said that, you are you are informed. You can buy it. By the way, one viewer told me, how big is that nib? Now, I know I'm going to be corrected. I don't know if I should measure the nib at its highest point. But if I do, and excuse the trembling fingers, I see 10 there. 9? No, I see 9. If I go further up at its widest, I'm at 10.2. So at its widest, the pen is about 10.2, 10.3. Now, is it at, 10, number 10 size nib or a number 9 size nib? I got to tell you, it's huge and it's gorgeous. So there you have it. What else I have in my notes to mention to you? Yeah, that's about it for my 930s. Now, what else did I get in the pen haul? Well, I mentioned to you that I've prepared it. It hasn't been published yet. Let me just take a sip of my espresso. My ASVINE pen collection. And in that video, I mentioned that I think I have every single model of ASVINE. Maybe not all the colors and materials, but in terms of model, I have them all. And I was convinced of that, and I think it was wrong. So now I've got to go back and add this pen to that video, because I was missing this pen to my great surprise. I thought I had it, but I don't. So this is the ASVINE, and I think it's a gorgeous pen. So there you have it, ASVINE, and it's the P30. It's a piston filler with a nice transparent acrylic body. You can see the mechanism worked really nice. I like these semi-transparent, and then it's got a nice, I guess that would be brass, a nice clip, well done. It's the ASVINE quality as usual. Very, very nice pen. Good size and weight. That section is just slightly, a little slippery, but nothing that would not, make me enjoy the pen. I do have an ASVINE medium on it. What I'm going to propose is, I don't think I'm going to, not for the time being, I don't know if I'm going to review this pen in great detail, but we shall see. But in any event, that's another pen that I purchased, and I'm going to now I think I got them all. And so I'm going to be adding this to my video before it gets published. What else have I got for you? Oh, I want to follow up on the 1866. Beautiful pen, I've got to tell you. Now, it was part of my currently inked for the week. I did not end up using it, however. So let's just see if there's a drawing issue here. So this is the... No. Dieman. 1866. I think they call it the Max Forest. So, by the way, this lemon nib, I mentioned it. I'm just going to put up on the screen. I did do a review of this pen, so you'll see the thumbnail. And I do mention that review, I believe in that review, that there is... I didn't have the similar problem with other lemon hand polished medium nibs. This has a tendency to skip a little bit. See that? Especially at the start there again. Especially in fast writing. So I'm going to have to fine tune it a little bit. It's not as perfect as the other ones that I have, but I did want to follow up with it. As you can see, no drying issues. Almost a week without use, and very nice pen. And as I mentioned, now I've ordered the Dieman titanium T1, which I believe is going to be a titanium version of this pen. So there you have it. When I get that pen, we shall review it for sure. And maybe I will switch up and do the reviews of both at the same time, as opposed to doing two, really reviewing essentially the same pen. We shall see. We shall see. But that's, again, a work in progress. So that's the ASVINE, just a follow-up on the Dieman, I should say. Oh, the other thing is that people were saying that the nib, the Dieman nib on this is a kind of more of a flexi nib. As I mentioned in that detailed review, and I thought I mentioned it here, I don't believe that nib is any flexier than the other nibs that I've had the occasion of using. And I'm talking about the standard nib, which is kind of a knot design. Let me just see if I have it here somewhere. Yes, here's the nib that came with this pen. So this is the standard knot design nib, and I don't believe that the one that came with this pen is any softer or any flexier than previous pens that I've had with this nib. So anybody that thinks you're getting a more flexy nib, I don't think you are. At least that's my experience. Okay, what have I got to do for you next? I think we can now go into the nibahals. So, first thing I did is that I purchased another fountain pen Revolution, and let me just close up. Okay, I purchased another fountain pen Revolution Ultraflex nib. Here it is, because you'll remember I mentioned in one of my recaps that I had one installed in this ASVINE. I don't know if you could see it, but it's damaged. You see the way the nib is kind of bent there? What happened was that I was inking this pen with the vacuum filler, and I made the mistake of resting the nib onto the bottom of the ink, and then I pushed the vacuum mechanism down, and by doing that, I bent the nib. Now, the pen, let me just see if it writes. So this is the, okay, well, the thing may not write because my shut-off valve, but yeah, I had shut it off. So I felt it still writes, and it gives me a kind of a different feel, but I just felt very guilty that I had damaged that nib. So I went out and I bought another one, Fountain Pen Revolution Chrome. I was tempted to buy the gold. Some people say the gold version of this nib is worth the money. Others say that, you know, you get basically the same result. I'm not sure yet, so I may have to, you know, check it out on my own. It's got an ebonite feed, and you can buy that with the section, which is a Bach section, so you can fit into a Bach or a pen that has a Bach nib, or a Yowo, such as this one. And just to, some people say, well, why don't you show how you replace the nibs? So, you know what? I said, why not? Let's for those of you who are not familiar, I have here, this is a Lotus author with it came with a Yowo section, okay? So this is what I do. Remove of course, the converter, and then just, this is a screws in and out, so screw out the nib. There you go. And I put in, now, some people like to put some, some silicone grease there. I'm going to try it without it. So this is the Fountain Pen Revolution. As you can see, it's a beautiful fit. Very nice pen. Put back my converter. There we go. And le tour est joué. So, and there you have it. Now I have a Lotus author with a Fountain Pen Revolution Ultraflex nib. Give me a second. I'm going to ink this pen and we'll give it a go. Okay, so I've inked it. I've inked it, of course, now that I have that Parker Quink blue. That's the ink that I put in this pen. And let's see how this... so this is the... Oh, yeah. I think one of the best flex nibs on the market that can be used for everyday use and still have, you know, the fun of the flexing. Now, I'm not a flex guy. I just can't write. I wish I'm learning, but I'm not there yet. But I can tell you that, you know, there's nothing like it. Especially with that ebonite feed, it does follow really nicely. So there you have it. That's one way of getting a, you know, boring, broad Yowo nib and replacing it with something with a little more pizzazz, just for a few dollars, and it's like you have a brand new pen. So there you have it. Very nice from Fountain Pen Revolution. As I said, I'm still hesitating on the gold version, but if I know Vincenzo, it's going to form part of this haul sometime very, very soon. So that's the next one. What else have I got for you? Oh, yes. I decided to buy, it came in this box. Now, where is the nib? Yeah, let me show you how it comes. So, 1 second. Okay, so I got this box. It's got a flex nib from Executive Vibe. I'll put the website on in the description. And it came with this box. Now, first of all, the box was kind of destroyed, so it's very cheap. And I think it's got a reputation for being a very cheap sort of offering. But I was a little bit pleasant, and the flex nib was in there. Here's the flex nib and what it looks like. It kind of reminds you a little bit of the Fountain Pen Revolution nib, a little bit like the Peniter Quail nib. I thought for I think it's $19. For $20, it's got a plastic feed. As at the end of the day, I was struggling to find in which pen I could put this in. But when I looked at the pens that they were offering for sale with this nib, I realized it was basically Jinao. And then I took out my Jinao pens and realized that it fits perfectly. So what I did, and let me show you, we'll kind of put together the pen with the nib. So this is a Jinao nib section, if you will. So here we go. This is the pen I have is a Jinao 100 Centennial in that Galaxy Blue, and as you can see, the nib fits very nicely in there. Okay, we'll put in with the Jinao converter and just screw that in. So there you have it. So for what, $20 you can get these Jinao 100, another 20 for the flex nib. You've got a flex nibbed pen for approximately $40, or you could remove the Jinao nib that's as stiff as a board out of there, and all of a sudden this is a gorgeous pen. You can have some fun. Fountain Pen Therapy. We just got it for $40. So once again, let me ink that pen with some of that Parker ink, and we'll be right back. We'll kind of test that nib and see what gives. Okay, so we're back. Let's just first of all see what kind of a flex it has. Not great. I don't see the, but I think it's got a nice spring to it. So it's what a flex nib should be doing, right? It should be giving you a fine line, and then when you pull it, it gives you that, as opposed to just giving you lots of ink like the Peniter, for example. So this is the Executive Vibe. It is a fine flex, and it does have a lot of feedback. If you can hear it, it's kind of a feedback that is very similar. Of course, doesn't have the same smooth as my Sailor. This is the Sailor. I don't know if there's any. Oh, there's no ink. That's too bad. But it does have a similar kind of chalky sensation. So there is some feedback. Now, what I notice is that on this paper, the flow is not as nice as it is on Tomoe River. This is Tomoe River. What a difference. Yeah, the writing experience much nicer, I would say to you, on this Tomoe River paper, but keeping up, let me tell you, and I think this pen will probably just, with more use, it'll give you. So for those of you who feel comfortable with, you know, the writing of Flex for 19 bucks, you know what? It's more fountain pen therapy, as they say. But I noticed that on this paper, not at all. I don't think they like each other. But in any event, just to show you that for 20 bucks you can transform a Jinao into another Flex nib and enjoy the writing. At least it doesn't cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So that's another option. The next thing I wanted to show you is that I purchased, and I think I mentioned it to you, you guys, that Hongdian has now for sale these nibs. This is the nib, or at least the model of the nib, that appears in the Hongdian D5, which is this pen, you know, Qin Dynasty pen, that everybody raves about because it is probably the Hongdian nib that is the flexiest of them all. And I've prepared a video comparing all the Hongdian nibs. I'm waiting for Shanghai Du to, because I could be wrong, but I was almost convinced that he had prepared a table at one point in time showing us all the different generation of nibs and feeds, and I wanted to verify that table to make sure I'm not misinforming you, and of course give credit to Shanghai Du because he's the guy who first came out with it. I know Teresa Harris also did a review on these nibs, and she kind of compared them to what's in here and drew some conclusions. I think that my conclusions may be a little bit different, but let me explain. First of all, the nib, that nib doesn't go into all the pens. You have to make sure they are compatible. They are, I think, compatible with, this is the N12, so it is compatible with the N12. Now, this is the original, just to show you. The original, look how flexy that nib is. And what I noticed with this paper, fine nibs have a tendency to struggle. It's like writing in, you're almost writing in mud. And so the flow is not as nice as those tubs that I showed you with the ink swatches. So my opinion is, if we're going to use that paper, you should be using maybe a medium or a broad, if not a stub, which are my favorite, by the way. So for me, this could be a good notebook for the office. So just to say, look at the flex on this thing. Much more than the regular Hongdian standard nibs. Now let's see if the same flex comes out of this nib that I just bought. I don't see it, but it's not the same. The line is, and the wetness of it is very similar, but in my view, the flex, it's just not as flexy. I don't know if I could do this to just kind of show you, put both pens and put pressure on the paper. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put pressure, equal pressure on both, but maybe I could do it this way. I don't know how to do this, but yeah, no, it's difficult to compare it this way. But I can assure you that that nib on the original is much softer than the one I just bought. Now, is there a difference? Teresa seems to find that the one that you buy separately is kind of wider than the one that comes with the pen originally. I think so. You can almost see that the top part of that nib is a little bit wider. She thought she had different feeds. I got to tell you, my feeds look very similar. They don't look like they're different. Maybe I'm missing something. I think that maybe, and Shanghai, dude, can you weigh in? Let us know. Is it just a quality control issue? In other words, they're not getting the same nib out because of just quality control? Or is it a different nib? I think Teresa's right to say. Now, I'm hoping that it's the same comparison. The one I bought separately appears to be much wider than the one that is in the pen. At least from my perspective. There you have it. And certainly this is still flexy. I still soft nib, and it would probably still be, softer than, for example, this is the new generation of Hongdian, and this is much stiffer than this. But the original, in this pen anyway, and to the point where I've always said, because they do have gold versions of this Hongdian D1 nib, and I said, you know what, I think they gave me the gold version. This is impossible. The softness that comes out of this, and again, I think you're better off with Tomo River to show you that, but is outstanding. Can you see how much I could, split those tines? This is a fine, and it's not meant to be a flex nib. Whereas on the ones I just purchased, I'm not getting the same softness. It's still fairly wet. It's still a very nice writing experience. Now, is it because it's just quality control? Or maybe I just got a pen where maybe I pushed it to the point where it now flexes more? Perhaps. Well, if that's the case, I've got a couple of more. So let's dispel any doubts. This is the cartridge converter version, and it does have a black chromed nib. And here again, very flexy. Even though it's got that black chrome, because some people say, or at least it's been my experience, that when the nib is covered like that, sometimes it's not as soft, but this one is just as soft. This is again, the same thing, original nib inside the original pen, except it's an extra fine, and there again, the flex is not as smooth. I find the extra fines not the greatest writing experience, but I think they're a little bit softer than the ones I just bought. But nonetheless, probably worth your while. If you want a softer writing experience, you can take some of your favorite Hongdian pens and change the nib out and purchase that D5 nib. So there you have it. And stay tuned for my video where I'll probably be comparing all of this with all the other Hongdian nibs. So there you have that. Okay, what's up next? Well, remember I mentioned to you, well, we've been looking at it, couple of nibs, right? We've got the Fountain Pen Revolution number 6 sized Ultra Flex that I bought to replace the damaged one. We bought that Executive Vibe Flex nib. We bought some of that Ungdian D5 nibs that give you a little bit of softness. And I bought another one. Now, let me just not mix them up. This is FP nibs. I had bought, and I showed you this last week, which is this Schmidt number 5 Flex nib. Flex because they've just split the tine right down. Okay. It's railroading. Does it have any ink? I've been using this. Let me give me a second. We're going to ink this up because I do want to show you how these two nibs compare. 1 second. Okay, we're back. So this is the number 5 Schmidt transformed into a flex. And I was very, very surprised and happy with it. Because for those of you who know what they're doing, it feels like almost a vintage nib. In other words, you can get the fine line, and then you can, go from fine to almost double broad. Take a look at that. Very nice. And you could use it for everyday writing. So it feels like a vintage nib. And, some of the vintage nibs in those Watermans were small nibs. They weren't huge nibs. So that was the one we took a look at last time. And I added another one to my collection. I said, well, while I was, shopping for that Fountain Pen Revolution Ultra Flex number 6, I was curious about I think they call it the 5.5. I'm not sure why it's 5.5. It is small, like a small sized nib, maybe 5.5 because of the width there. And again, what I did is that Schmidt one, of course, I put into this Admoc M400, and it fitted in really nicely because it has a nib section, a Schmidt nib section, so it wasn't a problem. In this one here, I just replaced the nibs. I pulled out the nib from its section and just inserted this one, and it works just fine. Again, it's another M400, and let's take a look at this nib. I think less of a line variation with this nib as opposed to the Schmidt one. In other words, but again, I get a fine line, and then I can, get it to flex. It doesn't give me as wide a line as the Schmidt. So I don't know if this will give me, no, you could see that that's as far, but it is very much, and it's springy. So I don't know what I'm doing, but those of you who know how to write with a flex nib, some of that calligraphy type of writing, I think will enjoy this pen because you can get out of it a very nice writing experience. Again, took a cheap Chinese pen, took a fairly inexpensive flex nib from Fountain Pen Revolution, and transformed the pen into a fountain pen therapy pen. I'm happy with that. So again, it just goes to show you that if we're, I'm bored with these Yowo nibs. And in fact, from now on, if I like a pen and it has a Yowo nib in it, I'm going to make sure that I get a different grind, either a medium cursive italic or an architect grind or something else. I think is worth the extra dollars, so you can get something different other than these very, very boring, Yowo or Bach nibs. So there you have it. That was my pen and nib haul, if you will. And I think I made some very interesting purchases that will keep me busy for quite a while. And some of these pens I think are going to end up in my currently inked for next week. But stay tuned for that. Now, what else did I get in terms of purchases? Oh, I did want to show you. Where are we? Yes. This leather, oh, let me go overhead camera. I showed this leather blotter that I thought was good. It's purposely meant to soften the writing experience. It comes from Galen leather because when I put it underneath, I feel like there's more of a bounce in the writing. Okay, but I was corrected. Viewer said you could probably use it that way, but that's not the purpose of this. Apparently, the purpose of this it serves similar purpose to this. It's it's kind of a blotter, but it's made out of leather. And I said, well, I just feel very bad, and you can clean your pens, and you could blot out, or use it as a blotter page. But what happens with all the ink that's don't you ruin this leather? Apparently not. Apparently that's the way it is, and this thing is washable. So one viewer gave me some suggestion on how to wash the ink out of this leather, but that's what this is for. So my apologies for those, and thank you to those who corrected me. We have that. What else we've got? Oh, I wanted to mention these are the C2000 gaskets that go to inside the pen. Please take a look at my previous videos on that to make sure your C2000 from ASVINE doesn't dry out on you. And what I've been informed, because a lot of people say, well, you've got to pay $4 for this little gasket. There is a coupon. I'm going to put the coupon in the description. Use that coupon to cut the price to 50%. So you can probably get it for $2. And because they feel bad, because they're saying that on Amazon you can't give more than a 50% discount, they then add a converter to the picture. So when you order these gaskets, you'll also get a converter. If you ask yourself why, it's because they want to make up and make sure you get the value for the $2, even though you're given a coupon that essentially cuts the price down to 50%. So I thought I'd mention that. Next on my haul, and again, because people have asked me, is I decided to buy this, which is the pen case. Now, you'll remember that I've been showing you this pen case, which is my currently ink pen case for a week. I fill in 12 writing instruments, and I bring this to work with me every week. I decided to buy myself another one, and to show you how much it costs and where you can buy it. With your permission, let me just cut. So here we go. You can get them on Amazon. As you can see, that's the one I ordered. It's a 12 pen case for $56, which I think is a great price, because these things, you can probably find them for much more than that. You can get, I don't know why this 2-pen case is $64, but that's what it's saying. You can get a 6-pen case at $56. You can get them in different colors. I don't know why it's 12. Hold on. No, these are all 12. Sorry. It looks like it's a 6-pen case, but they're all 12. It's just a color that changes. See, a 3-slot will go for $31. A 6-slot will go for $45. So there you have it. I'll put it down in the description. So, for $30, $50, $40, $30, $40, $50, you can go from a 3-slot, 6-slot, or a 12-slot, all in leather. And if I show you just let me cut back to my overhead. Here it is. Beautiful. Just a very nice. So, I'm going to kind of, my currently inked stay, when I switch from one to the other. That way it's easier. And it's also nice for my B-roll. When I do my videos, I can show different colors. So there you have it, another 12-pen case. And now you are informed as to where I get these things. So that's that's my product haul for this week. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed that. Give me a few seconds. We'll come back with the next segment. Okay, so for my next section, we're going to take a look at currently inked. Let's see what the 12 pens or 12 writing instruments I had last week and how did they perform. And let's go back to my overhead camera to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, first of all, let me just remove this from the case. As I mentioned, and as the viewers know, I always have basically a ballpoint pen, a pencil, and a roller ball. We'll get to that roller ball in a second. This week, the roller ball is this Pennider, what is it, Grand Times, or I forget what they call it, Modern Times, I think it is. So this is the Pennider Modern Times. Very nice, especially on this paper. You can see that this paper becomes slippery again when you don't have a fine nib eating into the paper. We got this pencil that's, is there any, here we go. So this is my pencil. I always have a pencil. Okay. And for my roller ball, take a look at these things. I had them, and I had forgotten I had these things. That's what happens when you order too much. It's Yokers, or Yokers. Yeah, or Yukers. What's beautiful about this, now I have two of them. Well, let me just pull out the other one. Where is it? Do I have both of them here? Yes, I do. First of all, I have two of them. This is a 1.2. You can see the 1.2 right there. And this one here is a 1.4. So very, one is thicker than the other. So the 1.4 Yokers, or Yukers, this is 1.4. So you can see it's very thick. That's that one. And this is the Yukers, or Yokers 1.2. Probably not as smooth as my Pelican R400, which is so, I mean, you can't find, this is the Pelican, yeah, I mean, you just can't, it's probably one of the best rollerball inserts that I have. But the nice thing about these Yukers is that they come with a converter or a cartridge, so you can keep filling and use the ink that you prefer. Now, I would suggest that, given it's got to come out of there, you don't want any shimmering or badly behaved inks. But if you can find some very wet and easy flowing inks, there you go. You can use these with different color, and they become very, very useful. So Yukers form part of my my gang as well. Another go-to pen I had for this week, I replaced my Mont Blanc with this Pilot Custom A23. Very nice. Can't go wrong with this pen. So that's that. My red pen for the week, I had two of them actually. I wanted to test this ASVINE with the new gasket that we put in there to keep it from drying. Let's see if the pen still writes. I have not used this all week because I used the other one. Now I'll show you in a second. So there you go. ASVINE C2000. This is the stub, by the way. No drying issues anymore, folks. So will they come up with more of these? So far, I haven't seen any. But those who do, you were lucky enough to get one, get the gasket. It's worth the $2 or $3. And the other red pen that I was using is this Ranga 4NC. Let's see if it dried up on me. Well, not really. Here we go. Ranga 4NC. But what's nice, it's got a medium cursive italic. And there again, the paper, because of that italic, kind of eats into the paper a little bit. You could see it's kind of allergic to anything that's too pointy, this paper. It needs a rounded nib to perform properly. I also had this Fully Win 812 or Young Thing or something like that with the little nib that writes really nice. This should write really nice here. Yeah, you see. They call it the 812. Kind of a architect nib on this thing. Very nice. No drying issues. Worked really nicely. Did I have my finally get to use a Safari? So this is my Safari. What do they call it? I think they call it steel black. This has a broad nib. And these things are workhorses. I mean, I never have drying issues with the Safaris, but, you know, new edition, kind of given up on them. I weren't my favorite, but I certainly enjoyed this one this week. Ah, my little M2. Let's go to the next page here. My Dieman M2, which is working out really nicely. I think is probably one of my favorite pocket pens. So this is the, yeah, look at that. Dieman M2, the brass finish. Not slippery at all, folks. And the nib's got a little bit of spring, not much. They say soft nib. Soft nib. Certainly softer than a nail, but, you know, it's nothing, you know, it's not your D5, okay? It's not a D5 nib. But very nice writing experience. Writes all the time, no drying issues. Very nice weight, very nice comfort. Then, I don't know if this thing writes. We'll see if it dried up on me. This is a Trammell, kind of an imitation of a Pro Gear. Very nice. You can check out my review of this pen because I find the resin on this pen like almost precious resin. It feels like a Mont Blanc. It looks cheap plastic, but it isn't. So this is my Trammell Creme. Very nice feel and comfort to this pen. However, I did replace the nib. I've got a Joya broad nib there. So I just replaced the nib. And you can see how this paper loves rounded nibs. This is a broad nib, actually. So this paper really enjoys rounded nibs like this broad. I didn't use this one this week all that much, to my great disappointment, because I thought I would. But this is my Nettuno. Whoa, dried up on me really quick. There you go. This is what I do to prime the feed. Look at this. Oh, something's wrong here. I mean, all that ink, where did it go? Maybe there wasn't enough ink in here. Yeah, that's funny. Because look at that. Everything went down. And maybe I forgot to ink this thing, and all I had was kind of traces of ink. Maybe that's why it doesn't. But I frankly, I didn't use it all week. I may just leave it there and use it next week. The next one is I had the stipula lucens with the steel flex. See? Dries up on me. So, expensive Italian pen. Oh, did I ink it? I thought I did. Yeah, look, it's ink. Oh, look at that. Dried up. Dried up on me completely. So the ink that was in there dried up completely. So there's nothing left. That's too bad. So I'm going to have to re-ink these things and see if I'm going to get the same thing next week. Because now it's 2 expensive pens. So there you have it. 2 expensive pens that I didn't use and that totally dried up within a week. I've got an ASVINE C200, okay, that cost, so much less. What, $40 compared to 200 and 250? And it doesn't dry up on you. My Trammell, same thing. My Hongdian, same thing. My Fuluan, same thing. So sometimes, we criticize the Chinese pens, but you know what? Expensive Italian pens, and they don't write. That's not good. That's not good. Can't say the same thing about the Pilot, though. Pilot is Pilot. There you have it. So that was my currently inked. Why don't we take a look at what we're going to be writing with my weapons for next week. Be right back. Okay, so we're back for my next week weapons. First of all, my go-to signature pen. I'm going to, earlier on, I tried to write with the Sailor King of Pen. There was no ink, so we filled it up with that Parker Quick Blank ink, and we'll be using the Sailor King of Pen. Wow. This is just an absolute wow pen. You could buy all the Chinese pens in the world, folks. But I got to tell you this, sorry about the inky fingers. Look at this. It's a mess. There's very few pens that can beat this Sailor King of Pen. I can tell you, what a writing experience. It just blew me away there. In any event, there you go. My pencil. Take a look at this pencil. It's got a stub nib. It's got a stub pencil nib. You see that? It's kind of flat. So my pencil is going to be a stub pencil. In other words, you can get a fine line or you can get a thick line. This is why at the outset I was so obsessed with stubs that I even looked for a pencil stub. My roller ball is this Acme pen for this week. So this is an Acme roller ball. And I got to tell you, I have not used this roller ball in years. And by years, I mean more than 5. And I picked it up and not a problem. I don't know what refill is in there, but whatever it is, works. A Mont Blanc. Oh, okay. You know what? I'm not sure why I have this Mont Blanc in there, but it's in there. That's why it's working so nice. Okay, here we go. As far as my ballpoint, it's going to be this Peniter. So it's going to be at the Peniter ballpoint. There you have it. Of course, we've seen this one. I'm going to write with this Ultra Flex. So this is the Lotus Author with the FPR Ultra Flex. I'll enjoy that for this week. What else have I got here? I'm going to I took out, oh, by the way, I'm doing a video on my stub collection, stub pen collections, all the pens that have stub nibs. And I'm going to show you in a second what that means. And this is one of them. Close up again. Is this Opus 88 with a 1.5 huge stub. So this is Opus 88, 1.5 stub. Wow. Talk about a smooth stub. And this will do very well on that Hamlin paper because it's quite rounded off. It's more cursive than it is italic. I will use my brand new Ongdian D5 nib as a red pen. I've got Yamaburo in there, I think. Yeah. So this is the Ongdian N12, but with a D5 medium nib. No, fine. Yeah, fine nib. Writes like a medium, but it's a fine. I also thought that maybe from now on we would put in a kind of a pocket pen so I can, kind of circulate and rotate, I should say, pocket pens that I have. This is the Lotus Ion. Beautiful, heavy, but beautiful brass finish on this pen. So this is the Lotus Ion with a Yowo. It's a broad, but it almost writes like a double broad. This would go nice with that Hamlin as well, because very roundish. So here we go. Just stop there. So very nice pen, by the way. It's heavy, but it's a workhorse. The only bad thing about it is that it has that small, almost useless converter like the Kaweco, but it is what it is. It's a pocket pen. And I don't like cartridges. They never seem to work out for me. I will also continue with this Marte Modena Freedom pen. It has a Marte Modena broad, although it writes more like a medium. So this is Marte Modena with a broad nib. And the model of the pen is Freedom, if you ever find them on eBay, perhaps, or at some auctions. Very nice pen. I mean, very nice black, grayish resin with the Marte Modena logo. They made some very nice pens at very affordable prices. These were pens I bought early on as a collector. And speaking of Marte Modena, of course, you saw this Dolce Vita imitation with the, so this is the Marte Modena Dolce Vita, and it's the dark blue. I've got many colors, the same pen, and it's got a stipula stub to be revisited in that stub review of mine. Okay, that's that, and we've got this Rosetta with a 1.5 stub. And it's a Yowo. There you go. And do I have space on the other side? Yeah, I can still keep going here. And I decide I'm going to bring along with me the this Flex, which is it's a Jinhao 100 with Executive Vibe Flex, Fine Flex. We'll use that all week as well. So there you have it. Beautiful pen, by the way. Yes, a Parker dual-fold imitation, but take a look at that resin. Galaxy blue. Very, very nice for what, maybe 20 bucks. And it's got a nice nib. At least it looks like it has a nice nib. So there you have it. We'll take that for a nice picture. So we have it on record. These are my weapons for this week. Be right back with the next segment. Okay, so the next segment is YouTube, and what's on YouTube in terms of reviews, in terms of other reviewers, and what's up for me, or what's going on in my studios. Well, first of all, one thing I noticed is that some of the mainstream, very popular reviewers in our fountain pen community, who are always privileged to get all these expensive pens, and I won't mention names, but they kind of are turning to reviewing some of the Chinese pens. I mean, you and I, the fans of Chinese pens, put it this way, and I shouldn't say you and I because you're not all fans, but those who follow me, as you know, we pay particular attention to Chinese pens. We've seen the ASVINE pens. It's years ago, but it looks like they're finally discovering them. And so you got some of the mainstream reviewers who are finally looking at ASVINE and Ogdeon and Wingsung and Majon, and they're kind of discovering these pens. Some of them are getting them for free and, to promote them, etc. But what I noticed is that we've seen those pens for quite a while now, and we've been telling the world that these pens are worthy of mention, and I think even the mainstream guys are finally starting to realize it. So that's an interesting trend that I noticed these days. Now, what else have I got for you? Well, first of all, I'd like to mention Teresa Harris, who is a very loyal viewer of this channel, and I'm a loyal viewer of hers. She goes through the NIBS, the Ogdeon D5 NIBS, and I told her and I wrote to her and I said, "Wow, it's just mental telepathy," because when I saw those NIBS, the D5 NIBS being sold separately, I said, this is great. We're going to order them and then we'll compare them. And she did exactly the same thing. She beat me to it in that regard. So take a look at her video because it might give you a different twist. She may have had a different experience from what I did. So I think it's worthy of mention. I also see here For the Love of Pens, it reviews the Wingsung Yunline 930. Again, I'm not totally comfortable with the size of that pen. So I think you should all have the benefit of seeing other reviewers looking at the pen to see how they have concluded and what they conclude. What else have I got for you? I know there is another reviewer who also reviewed the 930. Yeah, it's Doodlebud. So Doodlebud has reviewed it. So you can take a look at his, and he's always got more technical approach to things. You can take a look at his video. You've got, of course, also my French friend, Une Fontaine de Plume, that has reviewed the Wingsung Yunline 930 in very, very fine detail. Again, gives you a different perspective and maybe additional information which would help you make up your mind. Lastly, I want you to take a look at this stacked nib. Foodefan reviews it for 30 bucks US. It's on sale at AliExpress. I'm hesitating, but it looks like it may be of interest. And for those of you who are wondering whether or not it's worthwhile, take a look at this video. It may add some perspective that you may be interested in. So there you have it. So that's it for what's out there in terms of other reviewers. Now let's take a look at what I have to offer on this channel. Okay, in terms of our own YouTube reviews, well, first of all, of course, this week we have last week's recap, which I invite you to visit if you haven't done it yet. You'll see some very interesting stuff. Every week we come up with different stuff. It's just not, a show about what's happening during that week. It gives you other information about all kinds of other pens and some interesting swatching We've got paper each week. We've got different inks each week. So you can always revisit those recaps at any time. And it's like, you're taking a look at something different in an hour-long show. So meant to be consumed slowly with the timestamps. You're invited to do that. And of course, I have my review of the Wing Sung Yun Line 930 that I published this week. Now, what's in the bag and it hasn't been able to get out of the bag? This week I wanted to publish 2 videos, but then all of a sudden Wing Sung came out with their 930, and I thought that deserved the airtime, and I didn't want to cut into that video. It was doing very well. People were interested, so we let it roll, and we only ended up publishing. And there's always something new that kind of interrupts the flow. The week before was the N25, the Yongdian Year of the Snake Pen. So there's always, some novelty that I think deserves to be pushed ahead, so to speak. But I have the whole series of what I call the collection series. So you have, for example, the Hongdian NIBS collection and review that I'm going to be publishing sometime soon. I wanted to publish it, and then I realized I was missing some nibs. And those are the nibs that we discussed here, those D5 nibs that you can buy separately. So I'm going to have to go back to that video and include those. We have the ASVINE collection video as well. But there again, I was missing one pen that you saw in this, the P30 that I forgot to order and that I realized I didn't have. So I'm going to be adding that to that video before publishing it. We have the Majon collection, which is also going to be very interesting unless another Majon pen comes out, and then I will have to edit that video as well. And I'm working on the stub pen collection. And yes, folks, take a look at this this picture. This is a picture of all the pens that I had, or not all, but a good sampling of the pens that I had in my collection that had stub nibs of all kinds, and that I decided to wash out. I'm going to be inking all those pens up, and we will be looking at all those stubs in a future video. So stay tuned for that. That's in a work in progress. Then, of course, I've got all my pen reviews. We've got the Hongdian 1866 review. Here's a thumbnail, which I may redo and combine with the Hongdian T1, the titanium one, given that we're essentially talking about the same pen. So I may have to fine-tune that video and maybe come up with a different version, but it hasn't been published yet. We got my Stipula Lucence video. We got the Ranga NC that needs to be looked at as well. I have my Aurora Talentum review, which is I meant to publish many weeks ago, but it just never got around to it. And then we got my Santini Libra Boreal, beautiful pen that I've showed actually, but I haven't been able to publish that video either. And finally, I got my Aura Ultra Ogaiva. I mean, I bought this pen in Italy during the summer, did that review many months ago, and I just never got around to getting it published. I may take some of these and I'm going to have to publish 2 per week. Otherwise, they're just going to get lost in the shuffle, so to speak. And I know I've been repeating that from week to week, but for those of you who didn't know, that's what's in the pipeline, folks. So there you have my YouTube review. So there you have it, folks. Let me catch my breath. Just last drops of my cappuccino. It's what? Let me tell you what time it is. It's 8 o'clock. So that means I've been at this 8 o'clock in the morning. It's Saturday morning because I'm going to be publishing this tomorrow morning at 9 for your breakfast pleasure. For those of you who are in the same time zone. So I've been at it since 4:30 this morning, folks, and it's now 8 o'clock. So I've done all the taping. I've done all the video taping. That's it. Now we're going to end this. This is my conclusion, just to let you know what's going to happen next. I'm going to take all those snippets and all those segments, go to my editing station, put it all together for you with some music and some video, and slice it all together for your pleasure. There you have it. So if you haven't, given all the work I've been doing, please subscribe. And thumbs up. Give me your comments. Give me your comments. I love your comments. They're coming more and more. And so I may not have a chance to respond to all of them. And then there's this little, I don't know, quirk in the YouTube. Sometimes I respond to the comments on my iPhone, and I kind of dictate my responses. And then when I go on my computer, it's as if my responses or my replies don't appear. And I find myself sometimes replying twice to the same viewer. And I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure if because I'm using the iPhone, YouTube is not registering it, or YouTube on my computer is different. I have no idea. But sometimes I may end up replying to your email twice. If I do that, it's because the system is telling me that my reply didn't go through, so to speak. So I've been having a little bit of difficulty with that. But the other difficulty is there's getting more and more comments, which is good. I don't want you to stop. And, sometimes it takes me a little while to get to them all, but very interesting comments. It also fuels the station. If you want to see anything on the station, please go ahead. If you have any questions, we can do some Q&A. It's always very, very much welcome. So thank you very much for joining me. Have a great week and enjoy your pens.